Avalanche might be an opportunity in a market that looks like this because the number of active users is shooting up, and at the same time we now get institutional custody of AVAX in Europe. For example, there is Securitize that tokenized 300 million of its own stock both on the Solana and on the Avalanche chain. And there's Clearstream, an institutional custody platform that now includes Avalanche as well. And here are the news around the active addresses, which can be verified on-chain. Just have a look at this massive expansion. So is this potentially an opportunity to do the contrarian move, to buy Avalanche when nobody wants to touch crypto anymore? Hi, my name is Gerhard. I've been in the crypto space for the last 8 years. I hit my first million 3 years ago, and it is mainly through active trading of altcoins. With the website down below, you can see my track record. Over the last 5 years, I outperformed buying and holding Bitcoin by on average 2.3% per month. So this is my trading portfolio measured in BTC. And I don't think that many people on YouTube are willing to share this data, especially in the recent bear market where most people got wrecked. But there are specific approaches that I want to share in this video that help us to outperform irrespective of the market direction. Now the TVL, or the total value locked on the Avalanche chain, measured in US dollars, does not look great at all. Even in the recent past, the trend is very negative. Now here is the TVL measured in AVAX tokens. It doesn't look as bad. Still, it's not necessarily something to get excited about. The question really is, how can there be so many active addresses when there are no net inflows into the ecosystem? Are all of those new active addresses organic addresses, or is there something dodgy going on? There are clearly critics. For example, here, Ash Crypto, if you invested $10,000 in AVAX 5 years ago, you'd now be at a position worth $400. And there's no clear focus by the team. For example, here, a platform to tokenize trading cards. Over here, a cooperation with Hyundai for stable coins. Or over here, biometric identity running on Avalanche. It's all over the place. By the way, if you are using X, formerly known as Twitter, then feel free to also check out the account of this channel. I publish data regularly over here. Make sure though that you follow the right account. So that is at Bitcoin Strat. That's the only real account. Please do not follow any fake account. Now AVAX is quite complex because it actually includes 3 different blockchains. Relative to the first movers in the space, Bitcoin and Ethereum, it is more efficient in terms of time to finality. Still, 1 to 2 seconds is not as good as Solana or even the newer blockchains like Hyperliquid. Now have a look at the Avalanche price long term. This is just in US dollars. The dotted line, that's the long-term average price. It's $28. If we were to go back to that long-term average, the price would appreciate by 320%. So this is an opportunity to buy low and then potentially just sell at the equilibrium again. It's not as easy because here's Avalanche relative to Bitcoin. It tends to long-term underperform. Now where does this long-term underperformance come from? As so often with many altcoins, it's token inflation. So the number of tokens grows faster than the demand. When the supply outstrips the demand, then of course the price has to go down, at least relative to other cryptocurrencies. Of course, when Bitcoin itself goes up, Avalanche can go up as well. That's what we see with rallies like this. But relative to BTC, the long-term trend is not that great. 1 year from now, we will have roughly 9.7% more AVAX tokens floating. That token inflation is much stronger compared to the token inflation, say, for Bitcoin, where it's only 0.8% per annum. So AVAX has to grow by an additional 9 percentage points per year just to keep pace with Bitcoin. Tokenomics really matter, right? Have a look at the long-term market cap chart and compare this with the long-term price chart. The price tends to decline more simply because there are more tokens in circulation, and so it takes more capital to reach the same price. Avalanche, as so many other altcoins, tend to trade with attention. What we see over here as this blue chart in bars in the background, that's the number of creators that talk about the asset. What we see in green, that's the price. In other words, as there's more creators talking about the asset, the price goes up. As there's less creators and there's less attention, the price goes down. And over the last 2 to 3 years, this tended to rather decline, unfortunately. Now let's compare the short-term leverage. So we've got the trading on the spot market and on the perpetual futures market. On the spot market, we saw roughly 7 million worth of trading volume on the leading centralized exchange. Compare this with the perpetual futures market. Here we had 210 million worth of trading volume. So really the price discovery, at least in the short term, happens only on the perpetual futures. And the traders are very split regarding Avalanche's long-term performance. As in, the funding rate tends to move around zero. Sometimes the optimists pay to get additional leverage. Sometimes the pessimists pay to bet on falling prices. Clearly, there is a strong connection between leverage and the AVAX price. As in, when the open interest goes up, it's also when the price goes up. When open interest falls, so the amount of bets on AVAX is going down, and the price tends to follow as well. Now this can be seen as a positive right now because open interest is rather on the lower side. It's roughly 250 million and it peaked at close to 2 billion just a few months ago. There's also a correlation between trading volume and the price. Again, when there's more attention, when there's more trading volume, the price tends to go up, and vice versa. Currently, trading volume is not too high, which could also be interpreted as a positive sign. Still, I'm not that convinced given Avalanche's long-term token inflation and long-term underperformance versus BTC. Could we potentially very short-term rally by up to 160%? It's very much possible, but buying Avalanche now to hold it over the next 4, 5, 6 years, it's probably not a good idea. It's probably better to just keep plain old Bitcoin. And that's fundamentally always the question, right? Since crypto assets tend to move in sync. So when Bitcoin goes up, the altcoins tend to go up. When Bitcoin goes down, the altcoins tend to go down. Since there's so much correlation between crypto assets, we always have to ask ourselves, when we take more risk by buying a small altcoin or just buying Bitcoin, do we get that additional risk compensated with more performance? And unfortunately, that was not the case for Avalanche, and I don't think it will in the future. Simply because the technology isn't that special anymore and the supply grows very aggressively. So the early investors, the insiders, the team, they are dumping on the average retail investor. Now, as so often, I made a backtest trying to figure out what are the best golden and death crosses for Avalanche. So this comes from Bitcoin Strategy Analytics, the backtesting platform of this channel. Here is the result. We look for the best combination of slow moving averages and fast moving averages to determine the best golden and death crosses. For Avalanche, that's the 9-day plus 16-day simple moving average. That has more than 3x the capital every single year. So that's more performance and at the same time less risk, as in the maximum drawdown was much lower compared to just buying and holding AVAX. That outperformance is also very consistent. So at the top, we've got the AVAX price. Then in the middle, we've got the portfolio measured in US dollars in blue versus the AVAX price again in gray. And at the bottom, we've got the portfolio measured in AVAX tokens directly. So clearly, this trading strategy, at least historically, was very much worth pursuing. And right now, we actually did get a golden cross on the 30th of June. So the momentum has turned bullish. Does this mean that AVAX is a good long-term investment? Not necessarily. But right now, to bet on falling prices at the current level is also very risky. We are already at the lower end of the trading range. We could potentially rally quite a bit versus Bitcoin and still not break that long-term trend. And our backtest that measures the best momentum indicator, it is currently bullish. And I like to run those backtests. I like to trade based on the best moving average combination. That's why we've got the long-term outperformance. For example, here, right, Pudgy Penguins. We opened the short over here. We closed it over here. That was a 10% gain. And while not every trade works out well, the long term is what matters. And on average, a trade made 5.1% return over a sample size of 184 trades. All of those trades have been published in real time. That's on Telegram, but also via email. So this can all be verified. Now, I cannot share the current open transactions, right? This is, of course, for the premium members. However, there is now a new website, and that's linked down below. One of the premium trades that I currently hold, and that many of the premium members hold as well, that's available through this website. So you can either get that trade by clicking over here and requesting it in Telegram. You can also scan this QR code and then request it via Telegram. Alternatively, you can also input your email address over here. You will not just get that trade that's currently open, you will also get a premium tutorial video that explains how to set this all up and why the strategy works so consistently long term. So feel free to check it out. It's 100% free. No payment is required. No credit card is required. It's just available over here that you get an impression how we actually beat the market when everybody else is deep in the red. Now, if it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish here regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. So see you next time. Cheers.